Hello, welcome to Marvel Unwrapped, where we explore Marvel's greatest topics. I am your co-host, Cole Brunson.
And I'm your co-host, Aidan.
And then today, we also have the winner of our Marvel Unwrapped trivia, which is...
I'm Emma Schroeder.
There we go. And we had 13 questions for the trivia, and she got 12 out of 13 correct, which was honestly way better than I thought anyone who entered could have done. And great job on that one. And so, yeah, and then we've already done one podcast with her, but it was very fun, and I'm glad that she could join us for another episode.
I'm happy to be here.
All right, there we go. And then today's episode is our top 5 MCU villains. And of course, this first season will be us ranking Marvel topics, and we are ranking our favorite MCU villains. So I'll go first, and my number 5th one that is ranked is Ultron. And the reason I put him there is because he was like super smart. He like kind of knew how to do everything, and especially like how he was first introduced. He was created to kind of be like a suit around the world and to protect all things, but then he kind of outsmarted Tony Stark and became his own thing, and either figured out how to like sort of like kill Jarvis and like destroy him. And he's just like really strong. He manipulated the twins, which was Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch. He just did great with that. And then I loved his army with like all the robots or like the Ultron droids fighting. And I guess I really loved him in his movie.
My 5th favorite is Ronan, the Accuser. Number 1, because of his incredible smarts. And then number 2, his Infinity Hammer that had the Power Stone in it that was capable of destroying worlds. And his army was very powerful. And his strength and endurance exceeds most people. I think that his weapon makes him really powerful.
Yeah. And then, he was, like, really cool. I mean, like, I love his suit, too.
Yeah.
He was really cool. His hammer, of course, that was super awesome. And I'd honestly love to have it, although he probably couldn't be able to possess it.
Yeah.
But, he kind of, like, he was really strong. I mean, like, he was literally trying to do anything just to possess the world, which, of course, we all know is a really bad thing to do and usually goes wrong if you have protectors and the Guardians of the Galaxy and the Avengers.
Yep.
But he went through everything to do it. But the only thing that I don't like is that he went a bit overboard.
Yeah, he was too arrogant.
He kind of got, like, too murder hungry or whatever. And he'd, like, start killing people for no reason. And then I guess that's why Thanos sent him, because he knew he would be able to wipe people out without even caring that much. But he is a villain, so yes, he does have to do wrong. But
yeah,
it's just really kind of gory on how he was like created and how his mindset works.
He probably would have been up the list if he wasn't so arrogant.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's why he's my number 5.
It was surprising to see him try and stand up to Thanos. But honestly, the whole time I was watching Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1 and just seeing Ronan, I don't know if you ever watched the Hobbit movies, but he was King Thranduil. So I just kept picturing him with those funky eyebrows and funky rings, and it was kind of fun to see him and play a different role. But I agree, Ronan's a good villain.
Yeah.
Probably from my 5th favorite, I put Baron Zemo. He was from Civil War, as you remember. And the reason I put him as my 5th favorite is because, well, first of all, like, you know, I hate him as a villain. But I also want to talk about how he's, like, the only successful villain, I feel like, because he succeeded in what he came to do. His mission was just to tear the Avengers apart, and that's what he did by finding the thing that separated and tore Captain America and Iron Man apart. And it was, like, honestly terrifying watching that movie. But he was a very smart villain, and he's not a villain that has superpowers or abilities. He's just a really smart man who just figured out how to tear the Avengers apart.
Yeah, that's true.
That was kind of cool to watch.
Yeah.
And I mean, one thing I do have to say with that is Thanos, I guess, was also successful because he got to
Oh yeah, that's right.
universe.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was reversed. So I think you were right. He was the only one to succeed because he broke up the
Yeah.
Avengers, and that caused half the world to go apart.
Mm-hmm.
So honestly, yeah,
I was thinking like pre-Infinity War.
Yeah, and plus he
uh,
didn't have any powers or anything like that. Nothing to help
and
him
Baron
out.
probably is the most successful because Thanos, his problems did get switched back, but
But Thanos was very
Baron
successful
Zemo,
too, so
his stuck and his so yeah, he was the only successful villain.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So what'd you put for your number 4, Cole?
All right, my number 4, I put Hela, and because yes, she is kind of like Ronan. She is pretty murder hungry, but she wiped through like all of Asgard. She put like Asgard has like really strong warriors, and she wiped out all of them in like just like one scene, and then the rest of the village or like the whole rest of the, I don't know if it was a planet or an area. It's kind of confusing because comics relate differently to movies, and I'm not exactly sure how to like use it. But that place, like all the villagers, like the civilians, they just ran and fled. But all the guards, they were just murdered, and it was like really cool scene. And she's the goddess of death, so she was able to like bring back all like the dead that was her army before she was like put into like that sleep hypnosis thing. And honestly, it was just really cool to see her come out. And I loved watching that wolf fight Hulk.
Yeah, that was cool.
And the wolf.
Yeah, that was good.
That was great. Yeah.
Yeah, my number 4 is Magneto.
Oh, okay.
Number 1 because his helmet shields him against telepathic attacks. So if Charles Xavier tried to do anything with telepathy, Magneto could block that. But what was really cool is when he went to fight Wolverine, and he just kind of immobilized Wolverine in that aspect. And I think if you put him against some of the Wakandan tech, that even though it's a completely new like territory for him, it's still metal, so he can still manipulate metal and render their defenses maybe useless, or at least not as effective.
Yeah, Magneto, he's a really kind of, I don't want to say terrifying, but chilling character, because if you just apply him in like society, like everything has metal in it, or almost everything. So it's like, holy crap, he could be unstoppable.
Yeah.
He's a fun character.
And then also one thing that I do like about Magneto is he's kind of unpredictable because like in almost every X-Men movie, he has like a different character, and if he wants to follow the good side or the bad side. So it's kind of cool to see which personality he takes on, and he's like super unpredictable on what he does because you never know, he could just suddenly turn on the X-Men or just something like that, because he does have a dark past. His mother was killed in front of him just because he couldn't possess his powers correctly. And it's just honestly, it's fun watching him because it's just so unpredictable of what he will do.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, for my number 4, I talked about her last time I was on the show, but for my number 4, I put Ghost. Even though she's probably technically not a villain, she kind of played an anti-hero figure in Ant-Man and the Wasp. And the reason I guess she could be classified as a villain is because, you know, she definitely made bad choices. She kidnapped his daughter, etc., etc. But the thing that I love about her character is how we empathize with her. You know, she's in constant pain with her phasing in and out of, I don't know, matter, I guess.
Yeah.
But one thing that struck me about her character is how well, just in the movie, you see how her and the protagonist, Ant-Man, the Wasp, Hank Pym, how if they just communicated with ghosts, their whole problems could be fixed.
Yeah.
You know, like, I don't know why they're pitted against each other, and it just kind of shows you how even though you're the hero sometimes, or even though you're the good guy, you can still end up hurting people, and you can still actually do villain-like actions because you're not communicating with people or you're not trying to help them. And that's one reason why I like Ghost as a character.
Yeah.
And honestly, like I said last time, she does have a dark backstory, and
Mm-hmm.
it doesn't exactly give her the right to go crazy. But if you're thinking in
Exactly.
it in a logical way, she watched her dad die in front of her, and then she was like forced by Shield to be like a mercenary
Mm-hmm.
and like a killer. So she
Yeah.
have a dark backstory.
Yes.
Yeah.
Depends
And
on how
she's
you process it.
Yeah.
yeah. Her story is almost similar to Winter Soldier,
Yeah.
but instead of Hydra, it's Shield who's supposed to be good guys. So that's why it's all kind of like, whoa, like why is this happening? And
Yeah.
it's all very like confusing, and it's just like you pity her. So yeah, I hope we see more of her in upcoming like films or shows.
Oh, yeah.
They
I think that's
need
cool.
to make a new Ant-Man and the Wasp movie, and if they don't have her in it, I really hope it's just because they didn't get the actor to do it, because if they created the script without her in it, then that kind of it just
Yeah.
they definitely left it off on like a bad note. Not really a bad note, but more of like a suspenseful note of what would happen.
Yeah. Hopeful.
Yeah. All right, on my number 3, I have Venom, and I really hope he is brought into the MCU because of the Sony Disney deal. But right now, honestly, he's been like my favorite villain for like ever. I don't know why, but I kind of liked the teeth with a tongue, even though my dad hates it a lot because he said it's pretty gross. But I kind of think it's cool, and he was a good villain. Although in the comics, he was like in his first few series, in the Stan Lee series, he was bad, but he only wanted to be bad to destroy Peter Parker because Eddie Brock, which was his character, was like human character.
Mm-hmm.
He found like this like really big murderer, and he was a reporter too, and he found like this really big murderer, and then he found him, and then he was like he became like rich and popular off of it. But then Peter Parker found out that he actually got the wrong guy and that Peter Parker got the right guy, and then with that he kind of like went crazy, and then he got the symbiote, and the symbiote also hated Peter Parker because he's the one who like, I don't know, like knocked him down and kind of like tortured the symbiote to like unlatch off of him. And they both teamed together and tried to kill Spider-Man. But then Spider-Man saved Eddie Brock's ex-girlfriend or ex-wife or something like that. And they realized that he wasn't all bad.
Mm-hmm.
And then they went off to do their own stuff. But he is kind of like an anti-hero. And I love his comics. My favorite series with him is the Lethal Protector.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to talk to the movie now, which I honestly loved. And I was so happy that they created a movie off of it. And Tom Hardy, out of all of the actors in the world, he just fit it perfectly. And I do not think they could have replaced him for it better.
For sure.
And people definitely hated on the movie because it didn't have much relation to the comics because there was no Spider-Man and all that. But they did not technically have the rights to Spider-Man. So without Spider-Man, they did like an excellent job to create a Venom, which is a popular hero with his main villain or his enemy, which is like a really big popular hero.
That's a really good point.
They did it with him.
Yeah, that is a good point. My third favorite is Null, the King of the Symbiotes.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, he is. When I look at him, he defines like power when like in the not like having like Thanos level power, but symbiote power. He is skilled in hand-to-hand combat, like really good healing. Has a bunch of dark energy, and he's immortal. He can make like Carnage or Riot.
Yeah, and
he can make weapons.
He's
yeah. And then I don't know if this is true or not, but I heard that he can shapeshift.
Mm-hmm.
But
it's the symbiote like control, like it still has the colors of the symbiote, but the symbiote can shapeshift into other things.
Yep. Yeah, and he's the yeah, I mean, he when you really look at him, he is like not god level power, but he's power.
Mm-hmm.
That's why
Yeah,
he's my number 4. I mean number 3.
Oh yeah.
that's interesting. For my number 3, I also put Hella, as I believe you put Cole. But
Yeah.
partly the reason I love Hella is just I think that they played her so well in the movie. They part of that's due to the director Taika Waititi because his sense of humor is just pretty great. And I love Kate Blanchett, but I liked Hella just because, and this was before Thanos. I liked her just because we hadn't seen a villain show up and start throwing knives at people. Like that was just whoa.
Yeah.
Like you kind of get a sense for how strong she is, and I think that's really cool. And her ambition is just scary, and like she's not a good person. Like definitely 100% villain, but part like it almost makes me wonder like man if Odin had raised his kids right, we could have had an awesome team up of Thor, Hela, Loki. Like man, could have been a happy family. They could have done great. And I also think if Hela was alive, I really don't think Thanos would have stood much of a chance.
Yeah.
Yeah, he probably would have been dead in a second. Like the only thing that makes him powerful is his army and the stones.
Yeah.
But I really liked Hela. I mean, I hated her a little bit, but I think that comes
Yeah.
with every villain. It's like you love to hate them. And I don't know, I thought she was played really well, and it was a good movie. It was really enjoyable. And again, one thing that I liked her is how she had a little bit of humor in it when
Yeah.
she was like giving that speech, and she was like, "Do you know who I am?" And it was just funny.
Yeah. It was more of like a sarcastic sense of humor,
Mm-hmm.
but
Yeah.
still
And that's
amusing
what
to
made
watch.
Thor Ragnarok a really good movie. It was
Yeah.
funny.
Mm-hmm.
And especially the interactions between Hulk and Thor.
Yeah.
They're kind of the same, but kind of not. But it's just I don't know.
Yeah,
It's funny to see the interactions
how they're
between.
both a little immature and thinking
Yeah.
like who's stronger, and
Mhm.
yeah, it was just kind of
Yeah.
funny and cute.
That was funny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. And then before I get to my number 2, if Noel, he has not been introduced into the movies yet. He's honestly probably too powerful to be introduced to the movies.
Yeah.
But if you do want to look him up, like who he is and what he looks like, his name is actually spelled Knull, and then you can probably just type in symbiote after that, which is Symbiote, which you probably already know, but I'm just helping out. And if you want to look him up, you can. He's probably not going to be introduced into the movies. If he does, and I'd like to see how they do that, but I doubt that they will. But if you would just want to look him up and see what he's like, then yeah, you can just look him up. And then, all right, back to my number 2. I have Thanos. And yes, kind of like what Emma said, you can't like automatically love a villain because they are going to kill some of the characters you like or just kill like a lot of people. But Thanos, he honestly, he just went non-stop because he's sent like people before him to try to collect the stones. He sent Loki, he sent the other, he sent Ronan to get the stones for him. But then he realized that they just were not working, and then he just automatically decided it's time for me to do it. I need to get this. And then he went out, got all the stones. He like honestly, the only time I ever saw him get like actually hurt was when he had the all that for one drop of blood with the big fight with Iron Man, and then also when Thor stabbed him with Stormbreaker. But besides that, he barely got hurt throughout the whole thing. And even with the stab, he easily can heal it with the Reality Stone or something like that. But he killed, of course, he did kill half of our favorite heroes.
Yeah.
But he just went nonstop. He did not look behind him. And he just didn't really care how he got it. He just wanted to get it. And then he did kill a lot of my favorite characters, but I just kind of have to like him a lot because he was super successful. And
Yeah.
Yeah, like the gauntlet, when he put it on, it nearly killed him, but he did not care. He just wanted to complete his goal, which honestly wasn't exactly that bad. It's kind of like a mercenary's logic. He's doing the wrong thing for the right reason. Genocide to create like more life for others, but I think there would have been easier ways of solving it. But
Yeah.
my thoughts on this.
Yeah, with Thanos, it was like watching him in theater, and especially when you reference the scene, like all that for a drop of blood, it
Yeah.
really just it gives you a feeling like you're scared for your favorite heroes. You know, like for the first time in a long time, you're like, "Holy crap, are they gonna make it out of this?" And
Yeah.
it was just like it was like that. Like in the moment, it was kind of like scary, but it was fun to see it in the audience.
Yeah, I like how they gave you that sense of like, oh no, who's he going to take out next?
Mm-hmm.
And they actually I like how they made Thanos something more than him just sitting in a chair for the longest time and having other people do his dirty work.
Mm-hmm.
But for my number 2.
Oh wait, I have one more thought on Thanos.
Yes.
But basically one thing with Infinity War, with like most of the superhero movies, we already know they're not going to kill off the main character and just have the villain live free. And I think like I've already read the Infinity Gauntlet series, so I kind of had an idea if they were going to wipe out half of the people, and I wasn't for sure if they did that, but when they did, it didn't come as a surprise to me. But for others who aren't familiar with like the comics backstory, it could have definitely done something, since we expected them to just kill Thanos and move on with it. And then, but at the end, we just see like all of them fade to ash, and then the credits start rolling, and it's like leaving us like, what the heck just happened? It like left like a big shock to like everyone in the theater.
Yeah, I remember.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, my second villain is Dormammu.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
When he has from energy projection to time travel, teleportation to soul manipulation and life force absorption. He can travel through dimensions, and he's just really all powerful when you think about it. Because it took an Infinity Stone to kill or to just like get rid of him for a little bit, and we don't know if they're going to bring him back.
Mm-hmm.
But at least they delayed it with the Time Stone. So you really never know, because I don't think the Avengers would be able to hold off Dormammu for long.
Yeah.
And that honestly means like power in itself, that they could eventually get rid of Thanos, but I don't think they could hold off Dormammu.
Yeah. I really liked watching that scene in Doctor Strange of kind of like the time loop of him facing him again and again. That was just really clever and new to see. And it was just really enjoyable. And honestly, it reminded me of like a video game. You know how you like respawn and respawn and respawn.
Yeah.
And it was just kind of like, I feel like Doctor Strange was definitely more of a serious movie. So just kind of have like that be the kind of apex of the whole story is just that. It was just really fun and lighthearted, and I really enjoyed that.
Yeah, that was a good scene.
For my number 2, I put Nebula, and I definitely talked about her last time I was here, but I like Nebula. Well, at first I did not warm up to her because she seemed very angsty, and I didn't understand how much she hated her sister. But the more we learned about this character, I really liked her because we see that she was someone who was manipulated by Thanos, and we kind of sympathize with her and empathize with her, and we feel bad. And I like Nebula because you kind of see her on a path of redemption. And I think no matter what kind of movie you're watching, just that theme of redemption is so powerful and so strong. And I think it can really like relate to each person in a different way. Is you see someone who made these bad choices, who made these mistakes, and who hurt people, to kind of like becoming more human. And like it's really made me love Nebula as a character so much more. And her story is actually one of my favorites to see. And I do wish it was her who killed Thanos because of how much he wronged her and Gamora, but I like the ending anyways.
Yeah.
And then kind of like with her, you said you wanted to see her kill Thanos. She honestly was a big part of that because without her, they like brought everyone there.
Mhm.
He brought everyone there and then literally kind of I won't exactly say fought them off, but without her, they wouldn't have been able to get there.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, I agree with that.
All right, so then next are my honorable mentions, and my first one is Baron Zemo, because honestly, he's like super cool, and like Emma said, he's like the only one who's been successful, the only villain who's been successful, and he's no powers or anything. He just completed this whole mission that tore up the Avengers, and he had no powers. It's just amazing how he could do that.
Mhm.
And then next, I have Yellow Jacket. I did not like his personality, but I really loved the suit, and I thought it was super cool. And then for next one, I have Ronin, the Hawkeye version, not the Guardians of the Galaxy version, but the Hawkeye version, which was him in Endgame, because in the comics, I liked him a lot. I really hope we do get to see more of him in the Hawkeye TV show. But basically, he was like a big mercenary, and he was just really cool. And the next, I have Ronin, the Guardians of the Galaxy version. And I put him up because, yeah, like Aidan said, he has a really cool weapon, and he was just cool to watch. Although he did murder millions, and that kind of sucked. But my last honorable mention is the Winter Soldier. I think I might have put him first if he was like fully a bad guy, but he was only a bad guy in one movie, and he's been in like 7 movies. So in like the other 6 or so, he was good. So I guess I can't exactly count him as a bad guy, but if he was, then he'd definitely be my number one. But I like him because he's cool. He's like kind of like a big enemy of Captain America, although they both don't know it. And it was just fine, pretty cool to see it.
Mm.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
Mm-hmm.
My one of my honorable mentions is Ultron. Previously, like Cole said, he's incredibly smart, so smart that he outsmarted Tony Stark. He was really close to like beating the Avengers, but then he pitted one of the most powerful characters in the MCU, Scarlet Witch, against the Avengers. So I think that's what made him really more powerful than he thinks. Then Red Skull, because I think he was just a really good character in Captain America: The First Avenger. I really liked him as a character. That's it for my honorable mentions.
Yeah.
Right.
I like those observations. I didn't even think about the Hawkeye Ronin version. That's a really good point, Cole. And I don't have many honorable mentions. The only ones that come to mind would be one, Winter Soldier, like you said. I don't know why, but I just really like Bucky as a character, and I think you really feel bad for him and all that he's been through. And one thing I just want to like highlight, I guess, is if you compare Hawkeye's Ronin to Bucky's Ronin, one thing that always kind of makes me laugh a little bit is how Bucky, he wasn't like as accepted by like Iron Man in that side because he was seen as like, hey, you were an assassin, you did these things, even though that was all mind control, that he had no say. Whereas Hawkeye and Ronin, when he went on a willingly killing spree, they were like, oh, what's up? How was your assassin vacation? Welcome back on the team, buddy. And it's just like, what? You were literally trying to like, imprison Bucky, and it's just like,
I never thought that.
Yeah, that always bugged me a little bit, but I love both characters, so Probably my only other honorable mention might be the Ancient One, but I'm not even sure you can classify her as a villain. She's not even an anti-hero, but she's done shady things, but I still like her. I think she's awesome. I love a bond lady who can kick butt. I think it's a shame that like she was killed off because I think she would have been a really cool addition. But yeah, that's kind of all I have to say for that.
All right. So then, I guess next for my number one favorite villain would have to be Mysterio, because there's multiple things. One, his suit, a lot of people hate it because the whole fishbowl or whatever thing, but I honestly love that addition.
I think
Two,
it's cool.
yeah,
Yeah, I do.
Jake Gyllenhaal, he played that part perfectly. And then three, he was just like super smart. He kind of and it was like cool to see that like that big like barf or whatever, like Tony Stark called it barf, but that thing that he created, that was actually Mysterio creating it. And overall, he's just like a really cool character because he he created this like giant illusion just made out of drones and stuff. And he literally, I mean, like, it was kind of Peter Parker's Peter Parker's fault, but Mysterio outsmarted Peter Parker into giving him one of the most dangerous weapons in the world. And it was like really cool to see him on screen and see him how he played like such a good guy, but then it turns out he was only doing it just to get revenge at Tony Stark.
Yeah. One thing that's cool about Mysterio is just you can see how manipulative he was, and like that's not something you'd see a lot in Marvel villains, but I think you can come across like manipulative people a lot, and so it's just like whoa, it was really, and I agree, Jake Gyllenhaal, he played that really well. Like you really saw how unhinged he was as a character, and it was really exciting.
Yeah, I definitely really liked Mysterio. He was a sinister villain. Which made you like really like him, and he's like, wow, that's a really good hero. But then turns out he's a villain, so it kind of gets that like, oh wow, I didn't see that coming.
Yeah. And then it was also like crazy how he was like fighting a 15, 16-year-old.
Yeah.
And just like, and how twisted he would twist words, and like how he even blamed Tony's death on him. Everyone was just like, no, like back up. And it was crazy.
Yeah. Probably my favorite character is Dark Phoenix. Because even though telepathy and telekinesis could be considered a normal power to some people, Dark Phoenix's power is on a whole other level. Like, she can fly supersonic speeds. She could travel through hyperspace. And she that's just a whole new level of power right there. That's why I really like Dark Phoenix.
I agree.
I don't know if it's because I'm biased towards the X-Men movies, but yeah, I definitely like Dark Phoenix a lot.
Yeah, she was really a cool character.
Yeah.
And like compared to like the other X-Men movies, the new one, like most of them, they were good, but they kind of like went off like of the comics and didn't really follow it that much. But this one, I really loved how they portrayed it, how they portrayed Dark Phoenix. It was similar to the comics, but not exactly. And I really like how they changed it. Since like most of the time I don't like change, but the times I do, it's really good. Like I said, Venom, but then also with the Dark Phoenix, they did pretty well exchanging that, and like it put a good end to it, since that was like the last X-Men movie before it switches off to Disney, which I really want to see how Disney portrays it. But it was kind of a good movie just to set it off, and especially how they portrayed Dark Phoenix, and that was just a great one to end on.
Yeah, and even just like the person Jean Grey was just like, it wasn't like somebody who knew they had powers and really brushed it off, but she was just like one of those really good characters. Even when she wasn't Dark Phoenix, she was just a really good character.
Yeah. moving on, my number one favorite villain would definitely be Loki, 100%.
Yeah.
Even though he's
Yep.
not like you could say the most powerful villain, even the smartest villain out there, like let's be honest. But I love Loki as a character. Like he's probably, not the best role model out there. He tried to invade Earth, rule Earth, and he's
Kills all.
very arrogant. He can be obnoxious, but
Yeah.
really sarcastic. But I think the thing that makes Loki like a really enjoyable character and a character that people love is, and this also kind of ties into what I said about Nebula, but just like your classic redemption story. And I think seeing him grow from trying to invade Earth to kind of like actually trying to save Asgard, like a place that didn't welcome him, that didn't really accept him, it's just like, it's really fun to see. And I think that's what makes his story a good story, is because he goes from someone who's really selfish and self-centered, and he's still a little bit of that, let's be
Yeah.
honest, but but he goes to being selfless, and I think that's really cool to see. And you even see like the brotherly bond form between him and Thor that wasn't there before, and like I really like it. And he's also a cool character because there's just this whole back and forth with him, like, oh, he's a good person, oh, he's not, oh, he's a good person, oh, he's not. And it's just like, at this point, it's expected. And I think that's really fun to see as the audience. And I was really sad when they killed him for like the third time.
Yeah.
But, and part of me thinks he's not dead, he's died so many times, he's probably out there. And there is the 2012 version of him alive, but I'm really excited for the Loki TV series, and I do hope that he makes his way back into the movies somehow, because I think at this point, like, he's just a character that's grown on us,
Yeah.
Like, we love to hate him, we hate to love him, and like and also like we want Thor to be happy, and I think just that's a part of it. And yeah, Loki's definitely probably my number one favorite villain.
Yeah, because you definitely got the sense for the like 3 times that they killed him in the past, that when he was dead, supposedly dead, that you were like, oh no, he's dead, and then the next movie you're like, oh no, he's alive, and then he really keeps you guessing.
Yeah, I agree.
It's kind of like what I said with Magneto. It's fun to watch because it's always so unpredictable on if he's going to act good, if he's going to act like he's a villain, or if like he's actually, if like someone's beating him up, if that's actually him or if it's just an illusion.
Yes.
It's just almost impossible to tell because of his abilities and powers.
And another thing that makes Loki like a fun villain is, he put his dad in a senior citizen home.
Oh yeah, that
and
was
then
good.
he builds a statue in his own honor and throws plays in his own name. It's just funny. He spends his time watching theater, so it's kind of funny to me.
Yeah. All right. So I guess this finishes off our podcast. Please check out our own site, Marvel Unwrapped Podcast.GoDaddySites.com, our Instagram, Spotify, and YouTube accounts, all at Marvel Unwrapped. Thank you for listening. This has been your Marvel podcast, Marvel Unwrapped.
Woohoo!